Hey, shalom, everybody. Welcome back. How y'all doing? To Rise and Script. What up, baby? Let's get up and read. Man, I'm tired yet. I'm tired. Man, that workout was kicking my ass last night. But man, we up at it. All praises. All praise to the Most High. Another day we got breath to breathe. So another day that we have all we need to succeed. So the objective this morning is to succeed. Succeed and read. Succeed in the reading for Rise and Scripts. We are in Second Maccabees, chapter 4 through 6. We're gonna read 4 through 6. We're gonna stop at 7. Yeah, 4 through 6. 4, 5. We're gonna stop at 7. Depending on how the reading go, we might read through 7 and stop at 8. But we'll see. We'll see. 4, 5, and 6 for sure. We'll do that. 4, 5, and 6 for sure, man. I got shit to do, man. I got calls this morning. That's a really rope, man. Otherwise, I'd be still asleep. Man. But since I'm up, let's go ahead and get this out the way before I get the grill going, before I get the other stuff going that I need to get done. I need to get me a tiller too, man. I need a tiller. I need me a tiller. So I'm going to go ahead and get my ground chopped up because I've been bullshitting. I've been bullshitting. We can go ahead and read them, man. The wind is picking up. The wind is picking up out here. Yeah, I can't depend on nobody to come till my stuff for me. And I was out there, man. It's been so rainy and wet out here that every time I try to decide to get out there and start trying to dig up the ground, which I've started doing, but every time I try to get out there to dig it up, man, it get raining, flooded, ground flooded. But my grandfather just called me talking about how his plants 2 foot tall. I'm like, oh Lord, this boy, he got him going, making me jealous, righteous jealousy, because he doing this thing. Hey, shalom, my son, shalom, you up? Oh, you up like me? Oh Lord, you up like me?
Dad, you already done reading.
So go put y'all clothes on so we can go ahead and whoop the choir after I'm done reading, all right?
Okay. How many pages will do?
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Ooh,
you look sweaty. Let me smell your mustache.
Let's get back.
Ow.
Since you have breath to breathe this morning, sir, you have all you need to succeed today, sir. Let's succeed. Let's succeed. All right, we'll put your clothes on. Make sure y'all get y'all boots too.
Okay.
Because it's probably going to be wet back there where we're going. The ram horn, and it's not a ram, it's a kudu horn. It's to blow before we read. It's to blow before we read. Well, it's to blow today, but it's to blow normally. All right, so like I said, it's Rise and Scripts. Welcome to Rise and Scripts. Shalom, everybody. I hope everybody has their day started wonderfully. And all praises to the Most High that you even hear to see and listen and hear anything. And if you have breath to breathe, then you have all you need to succeed. So we're going to succeed. So We're gonna read about three chapters. But before we go into the chapters, let's go through the books of the Bible. I got them all yesterday, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, 1 Ezra, 2 Ezra, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, the wisdom of Solomon, the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, Baruch, the song of the three holy children, the history of Susanna, the destruction of Bel and the dragon, the prayer of Manasseh, 1 Maccabees, 2 Maccabees, which we are in. That's what we're about to read, 2 Maccabees, chapters 4, 5, and 6. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude, and Revelations. And those are the books of the Bible. Now, let's go ahead and get started because I ain't got all day, man. I got shit to do. We got places to go, man. We got to go out in the swamp. I got to take my papa to the swamp because he want to go get some damn cane reeds for his garden. And I need to go get some for mine as well. While I'm out there, I might as well get them. So let's blow up the trumpets and we're going to go ahead and read. To be heard, to be remembered, you know, as the prophets did, they blew up the trumpets before prayers during the feast times. They blew up the trumpets before they went into battle. You know, they blew up the trumpets in times of sorrow. They blew up the trumpets many times. There's many reasons to blow up the trumpets. But I'm blowing them up because I'm reading. Oh, the light's flickering. Oh, yeah, the weather getting crazy. Don't flick on me. 2 Maccabees, my bad. 2 Maccabees, chapter 4. Let's get it. This Simon knew of whom we spake afore, and having been a bewarer of the money and of his country, slandered Onias as if he had terrified Heliodorus and been the worker of these evils. And thus was he bound to call him a traitor that had deserved well of the city, and tendered his own nation and his so zealous of the law. And when their hatred went so far that one of Simon's factions, murderers, were committed, Onias, seeing the danger of this contention, said, and that Apollonius, as being the governor of Celesyria and Phoenice, did rage and increase Simon's malice. And he went to the king, and not to be an accuser of his countrymen, but seeking the good of all, both public and private. And for he saw that it was impossible that the state should continue quiet and Simon leave his folly, unless the king did look thereunto. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus, called Epiphanes, took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. And besides this, he promised to assign 150 more. And if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise, and for the training up of the youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochus, which, when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hands the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion, So all that exercising was some Greek fashions. But we do that shit today. That's why they was exercising naked and all that shit back then. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupelymus, who went ambassador to Rome for amnesty and aid, he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat. And now, such was the height of Greek fashions, and increased the heathenism manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to the partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise, and after the game of discus called them forth. Let's see what that is. Discus. Not selling by the honors of their fathers, but liking to the glory of the Grecians best of all, and by reason whereof sore calamity came upon them, and for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God, but the time following shall declare these things. And now, when the game that was used every fifth year was kept at Tyrus, it sounds like the Olympics, the king being present, this ungracious Jason sent special messengers from Jerusalem, who were Antiochians, to carry 300 drachms of silver to the sacrifice of Hercules, and which even the bearers thereof thought fit not to bestow upon the sacrifice, because it was not convenient, but to be reserved for other charges. And this money, then, in regard of the sender, was appointed to Hercules' sacrifice, but because of the bearers thereof, it was employed to the making of galleys. Now, when Apollonius, the son of Menestheus, was sent into Egypt for the coronation of King Ptolemy, Philometor, Antiochus, understanding him not to be well affected to his affairs, provided for his own safety, and whereupon he came to Joppa, and from thence to Jerusalem, and where he was honorably received of Jason and of the city, and was brought in with torchlight and with great shoutings, and so afterwards went with his host unto Phoenice. My bad, not Phineas, Phoenice. And 3 years afterwards, Jason sent Menelaus, the aforesaid Simon's brother, to bear the money unto the king, and to put him in the mind of certain necessary matters. But he being brought to the presence of the king, when he had magnified him for the glorious appearance of his power, got the priesthood to himself, and offering more than Jason by 300 talents of silver. They both, who can bribe the king better? So he came with the king's mandate, bringing nothing worthy the high priesthood, but having the fury of a cruel tyrant and the rage of a savage beast. Then Jason, who was undermined his own brother, being undermined by another, was compelled to flee into the country of the Ammonites. So Menelaus got the principality, but is for the money that he had his promised unto the king, and he took no good order for it. And albeit Sostratus, boy, they got some Greekish names. Sostratus, the ruler of the castle, required it, and for unto him appertained the gathering of the customs, and wherefore there were both called before the king. Now Menelaus left his brother Lysimachus, and in his stead in the priesthood, and Sostratus left Crates, who was the governor of the Cyprians. And while those things were in doing, they of Tarsus and Malus made insurrection, because they were given to the king's concubine called Antiochus. Then came the king in all haste to appease matters, and leaving the Andronicus, a man in authority, for his deputy. And now Menelaus, supposing that he had gotten a convenient time, stole certain vessels of gold out of the temple, and gave some of them to Andronicus, and some he sold to Tyrus and the cities round about. This dusty foot boy, man. Kill him. Kill him. Kill him in the spirit of Mattathias. Kill him. Knock his head off. And when Onias knew of the surety, he reproved him, and withdrew himself into the sanctuary of at Daphne, that lieth by Antiochia. And wherefore Menelaus, taking Andronicus apart, prayed him and to get an Onias into his hands, and who being persuaded thereunto, and coming to Ananias in deceit, gave him his right hand with oaths, and though he were suspected by him, yet persuaded him to come forth of the sanctuary, whom forthwith he shut up without regard of justice, and for the which cause only the Jews, but many also of other nations, took great indignation, and were much grieved for the unjust murder of the man. And when the king was come again from the place of Cilicia, the Jews that were in the city, and certain of the Greeks that abhorred the fact also, complained because Onias was slain without cause. Now therefore Antiochus was heavily sore, heartily sore, and moved to pity, and wept because of the sober and modest behavior of him that was dead. And being kindled with anger, forthwith he took away Andronicus with his purple, and rent off his clothes, and leading him through the whole city unto the very place where he had committed impiety against Onias, there slew he the cursed murderer. And thus the Lord rewarded him his punishment, as he had deserved. Now, when many sacrileges had been committed in the city of Lysimachus, with the consent of Menelaus, and the bruit thereof was spread abroad, the multitude gathered themselves together against Lysimachus, many vessels of gold being already carried away. And whereupon the common people rising and being filled with rage, Lysimachus armed about 300 men, and being first to offer violence, one, Oranus, being the leader, a man far gone in years, and no less in folly. And they then, seeing the attempt of Lysimachus, some of them caught stones, some clubs, and others taking handfuls of dust that was next at hand, and cast them on all together upon Lysimachus, and those that sat upon them. And thus many of them they wounded, and some they struck to the ground, and all of them they forced to flee. But as for the church robber himself, him they killed beside the treasury. And of these matters, therefore, there was an accusation laid against Menelaus. And now when the king came to Tyrus, 3 men that were sent from the Senate pleaded the cause before him. But Menelaus, being now convicted, promised Ptolemy, the son of Dorimenes, to give him much money, and if he would pacify the king toward him, Whereupon Ptolemy, taking the king aside into the certain gallery, as it were to take the air, brought him to be of another mind, and insomuch that he discharged Menelaus from the accusations, and who, notwithstanding, was cause of all the mischief, and those poor men, who, if they had told their cause, yea, before the Scythians, should have been judged innocent, and them had condemned to death. And thus they that follow the matter for the city, and for the people, and for the holy vessels, very soon suffer unjust punishment. Wherefore even they of Tyrus, moved with hatred of that wicked deed, and caused them to be honorably buried. And so, through the covetousness of them that were of power, Menelaus remained still in authority, increasing in malice, and being a great traitor of the citizens. Chapter 5. Now, about the same time, Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt, and then it happened that through all the city, for the space almost of 40 days, there were seen horsemen running in the air, and in cloth of gold, and armed with lances like the band of soldiers, and troops of horsemen in array, encountering and running one against another, with shaking of shields and multitude of pikes, and drawing of swords, and casting of darts, and glittering of gold ornaments, and harness of all sorts. And wherefore every man prayed that that apparition might turn to good. And now, when there was gone forth a false rumor, as though Antiochus had been dead, Jason took at the least 1,000 men, and suddenly made an assault upon the city. And they that were upon the walls being put back, and the city at length taken, Menelaus fled into the castle. But Jason slew his own citizens without mercy, and not considering that to get the day of them, of his nation, of his own nation, would be a most unhappy day for him, and but thinking that he had been his enemies, and not his countrymen, whom he conquered. And howbeit, for all this he obtained not the principality, but at the last received shame for the reward of his treason, and fled again into the country of the Ammonites. And in the end, therefore, he had an unhappy return, being accused before Aretas, the king of the Arabians, and fleeing from city to city, pursued of all men, hated as a forsaker of the laws, and being had in abomination as an open enemy of his country and countrymen, he has cast out into Egypt. And thus he that had driven many out of their country perished in a strange land, and retiring to the Lacedaemonians, and thinking there to find secure by reason of his kindred. And he that had cast out many unburied had none to mourn for him, nor any solemn funerals at all, and nor sepulchre with his fathers. And not now, when this that was done came to the king's ear, he thought that Judea had revolted, and whereupon, removing out of Egypt in a furious mind, he took the city by force of arms, and commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as went up upon the houses. And thus there was killing of young and old, making away of men, women, and children, slaying of virgins and infants. That's killing everybody. And there were destroyed within the space of 3 whole days 80,000, whereof 40,000 were slain in the conflict, and no fewer sold than slain. And yet was he not content with this, but presumed to go into the most holy temple of all the world. And Menelaus, that traitor to the laws and to his own country, being his guide, and taking the holy vessels with polluted hands, and with profane hands, pulling down the kings that were dedicated by other kings to the augmentation of and glory and honor of the place. He gave them away. And so haughty was Antiochus in mind that he considered not that the Lord was angry for a while for the sins of them that dwelt in the city, and therefore his eyes was not upon the place. For he had they not been formerly wrapped in many sins, this man, as soon as he had come, had forthwith been scourged and put back from his presumptions of, and as Heliodorus was, whom Seleucus the king sent to view the treasury. Now, nevertheless, God did not choose the people for the place's sake, but the place for the people's sake. And therefore, the place itself that was partaker with them of the adversity that happened to the nation did afterwards communicate in the benefits sent from the Lord. And as it was forsaken in the wrath of the Almighty, so again, the great Lord being reconciled and it reconciled, it was set up with all glory. And so when Antiochus was carried out of the temple 1,800 talents, he departed all haste unto Antiochia, weening in his pride to make the land navigable and to see the sea passable by foot. And such was the haughtiness of his mind. And he left governors to vex the nation at Jerusalem, Philip for his country, Phrygian, and for manners more barbarous than he that set him there, and at Garizim, Andronicus, and besides Menelaus, who worse than all the rest bear a heavy hand over the citizens, having a malicious mind against his countrymen, the Jews. And he sent also that detestable ringleader Apollonius with an army of 22,000, commanding him to slay all those that were in their best age, and to sell the women and the younger sort. Now, who coming to Jerusalem and pretending peace, did forbear till the holy day of the Sabbath. And when taking the Jews, keeping the holy Sabbath, he commanded his men to arm themselves. And so he slew all them that were gone to be to the celebrations and the celebrating of the Sabbath, and running through the city with weapons slew great multitudes. But Judas Maccabees, with 9 others, or thereabout, withdrew himself into the wilderness, and lived in the mountains after the manner of beasts, with his company, who fed the herbs continually, and lest they should be partakers of the pollutions. Man, chapter 6. This is the last chapter I'm going to read. Chapter 6. And not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers, and not to live after the law of God, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympius, and that of Garizim, of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in that place. And the coming of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riots and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. Oh, they was smashing in the temple. They were smashing in the temple. They was eating defiled foods in the temple. We had riots and parties in the temple. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And in the day of the king's birth, every month, they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. And moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death. And then might a man have seen the present misery. For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom, when they had openly led round about the city, they the babes hanging at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. And others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered to Philip, were all burnt together. And because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. Now, I beseech those that read this book, that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for a chastening of our nation. And for it is a token of his great goodness, when wicked doers are not suffered any long time, but forthwith punished. For not as with other nations, whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish, till they become to the fullness of their sins, so dealeth he with us. Unless that, being come to the height of sin, afterward he should take vengeance of us. And therefore he never withdraweth his mercy from us. And though he punish with adversity, yet doth he never forsake his people. But let this that we have spoken be for a warning unto us. And now will we come to the declaring of the matter in few words. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man, and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and came of his own accord to the torment. Yeah, they was trying to get that boy to eat that pork. But today, they eat it like it ain't nothing, and they swear they can do it. But he was going to die gloriously rather than eat it. They was trying to force him to eat it. They ain't got to force you today. As it behooved them to come, that are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted, but they that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use, and make as if he did eat the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, and that in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. But he began to consider discreetly, and as become his age and the excellency of this ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law, made and given by God, therefore he answered accordingly, and willed them straightways to send him to the grave. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to disassemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion, and so they through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer should be deceived by me, and I get a stain on my old age and make it abominable. See, not many people gonna live like that, man. Not many men and women gonna think like that. He didn't care about his old age. He cared about what the people thought about him and whether or not they was gonna follow after what they thought he was doing. If they think that I'm eating pork or swine or serving another god, then they think it's going to be okay for them to do it. Eleazar wasn't having that. All praises, Eleazar. All praises. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead. And wherefore now, manfully changing this life, I will shew myself such as one as mine age requireth. And leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment. And they that led him, changing the good will they bear him a little before into hatred, because the foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought, and from a desperate mind. But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that hath the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, and now endure sore pains in body by being beaten, but in soul am well content to suffer these things before I fear them. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation. That was Second Maccabees chapters 4 through 6. Eleazar had a good example, man. It was a good example of being steadfast in the things you're supposed to do. Steadfast. He'd rather die manfully than allow them to use him, to to teach people lies, or to get the nation of Israel and the people that was following him to do the things that they shouldn't do, to follow ungodly laws and ungodly customs. Man, he did his thing. But in the end, he was put to death. He was put to death in the end. And my idea of if we following behind the things that are said, that, every time that these people sinned and did not go and keep the laws of God, that great evils and torments and things happened to them. And it was even a point of time where it was certain things that was happening to these people where people were astonished of them. It can be said the same thing of today. There's a certain people that's an astonishment, certain people that other people look at them as astonishments, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not keeping the Most High's laws, commandments, and statutes. And maybe if they did keep the laws, statutes, and commandments, maybe things would be different. But, not everybody going to do what they need to do. It's for you to do what you need to do. And at some point, somebody going to rise up. Somebody going to be so zealous of the law that they're going to make shit happen. And people not going to like it. People not going to like it because of just the same way they didn't like Mattathias doing what he did. They didn't like Judas Maccabees doing what he did. Some people was rebels. Some people wanted to be like the Greeks. Some people wanted to be like the Syrians and the other nations. They wanted that. So you're going to have those people who still want that. You're going to have those people who want to live the Cush life and say the things like they said when they was coming out of Egypt. Remember the melons and the cucumbers we had? You'll have those people who still want the amenities of the past slavery that they don't even see themselves in, But, hey, you got to do what you got to do for yourself. The revolution starts in your own mind. You can impact your own household by doing the things that you need to do.
Are you done?
Yes, sir, I'm about done. So, let's keep forward. Let's keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. Read for yourself, man. Read for yourself. Don't just listen to your pastors. There's men out there who definitely have understanding. I'm not saying there isn't. There is men who have understanding, but you need to read for yourself. And no matter what book you have or what God you follow, you need to read your own books, and search out the understanding for yourself. Listen to the godly discourse. Don't get me wrong. Listen to the discourses. There's nothing wrong with that. You may learn something. It may be something that make you look, make you think. It might be something good and lawful that you didn't even know about that you can apply and add to your life. But it's on you. It is on you yourself to pick up the books yourself and read. And even though it may be a hard thing to do, it's still something that, you know, it's something you're gonna have to take on. It is something you will have to take on. Otherwise, you'll be fooled. You shall be fooled. And many have come in his name or in a name, and many have come in no matter what God it is, they names, many have come in them. Many have said, I am from there, I am sent by he, I am sent by she, I am sent by they and we, you know, but ain't nobody sent your ass. Ain't nobody sent them. Ain't nobody sent them. They sent their own self, like Jason and his brother that came after him. They sent their own self seeking a position, seeking to be above people, seeking to have things that, you know, they wasn't meant to have or didn't have the mind to have. So how do you guard yourself? How do you defend yourself? By reading for yourself. That's the first and foremost. Knowing for yourself. How G.I. Joe said, and knowing's half the battle. It is. Knowing is half the battle. Because people will tell you anything, man. People will tell you anything. And I'm not trying, that's why I'm not necessarily trying to teach. I'm just trying to read. I'm just trying to read. Let's read. I know that's one thing that they don't do in churches for real. Read. Just read. Open the book and read. Read. You can say all type of shit, but open the book and read. Open the book and read, man. Pick up the books in your leisure time. Read for yourself. Read for yourself. Gain your wisdom and gain your knowledge in what your book is, what your God is, who he is. You know, apply those things to your household, man. See the difference in your household and be steadfast in those things. The same way Eleazar was steadfast. And being steadfast might come with some issues. You might have issues with your family, your friends. You might lose some. But you have to be steadfast. Because, hey, everybody is going to be judged. According to the word, every person is going to be judged. You're going to be judged for the things you do. And the other people are going to be judged for the things they do. So if you want your you want your shit to be right. You want to be right in the eyes of the Lord. Let them be wrong if they want to be wrong. Let them be wrong and do wickedly, because shit gonna happen. Don't worry about the shit that come to the wicked. You worry about what's gonna come to you. You don't be wicked. Hey, I know it's hard not to sin. We sin every day in so many ways, but shit, if you don't even read, you won't even know what the sin is for you to be able to stop it or to try to stop it. Or to try to change your way, to try to repent and turn back. You know, you need to know what you're supposed to do so you can know what you're not supposed to do and not do it. Hey, many are called and few are chosen, and time will tell it all. Who gonna stand and who gonna fall? Man, time will tell it all. You know, time will tell who is blessed. Time will tell who is righteous. Time will tell, you know, whether you're doing what you're supposed to be doing or not. Time will tell if you're really disciplined or not. Time will tell. Shalom, October. Shalom, Lionel. Shalom. I love Cats and Steve. Shalom. Hey, but that has been Rising Scripts for the morning, just for today, where we read out of the Apocrypha, 2 Maccabees, chapter 4 through 6. Man, we get into the part, I think chapter 7. Yeah, chapter 7 is the good chapter. It's a good chapter about the mother and the 7 sons. So, yeah, I'm trying to have wisdom. I'm trying to get it. Trying to get me some wisdom. So I can do wiser and more wisely than I have done in years past and times past. Like we all should do. We all should do. Yeah. But that's what it is. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Man, get up, do something. Get up, move your body around, man. Get some of that weight off you if you got weight on you. Try to be a better person, man. Try to be healthy. And if not for yourself, do it for the ones that come after you, because we are leaving an example, whether you know it or not. Your actions are the example. Your speech is the example. And you can say what you want to say, but people watching what you're doing. And whether it be the ones that come after you, like the ones that's coming after me, watching what I'm doing and doing the stuff that I do after me. So therefore, I have to set a better example. So reading is one of them. Read. Show them there's nothing wrong with reading. Working. Show them there's nothing wrong with working. Get out there and work out too. Build your body up as well as building your mind. Trying to be a better father, showing them that it is a good example out there so they can be better. And one day if their fathers, hey, they can have their example. Well, my daddy did this. My father showed me this. And they can be the avenger. The same way Mattathias left Judas Maccabees and Simon and Jonathan and his brothers to be the avengers for him. I want them to be righteous. I don't want them to be wicked, because in this world of wickedness, man, it's going to be a hard task. But that's what it is. Shalom, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to get on that grill before that rain come. And I got to go get me some plants. And I got to get in this garden. Oh, I got a lot of shit to do. I got a lot of shit to do. I got a lot of stuff to do. So it's time to stop bullshit, man, and get it done. Get it done. So shalom, everybody. And as long as you have breath to breathe, then you have all you need to succeed. So succeed. Succeed. Succeed in small and work your way up to succeeding in big. One thing at a time. Succeed. It's on you. Shalom. Shalom. I'm out here. Shallow out.